All right, so looking at question number 1, what is the decimal equivalent to 14.5%? So if I write 14.5%, remember, we don't want that on our test. And to go from percent to decimal, I move this decimal 2 spaces to the left. And then I want to rewrite it so I can really look at where that decimal went. There I go. And there's my answer. All right, looking at question number 2, which of the following is a false statement? Well, we technically have to go until we can figure out which one's the false one. So if we look at 3/10 and 1%, we can do decimal to percent or percent to decimal. In this case, we'll just do decimal to percent. And decimal to percent means I move the decimal 2 places to the right. So I'm going to rewrite that as 0.3. I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the right, and I end up with 30%. 30% is actually greater than 1%. So we know that's a true statement. So then if I look here and I see 1 is less than 133%, I know that 1 has a decimal place right there. And I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 zeros, because from decimal to percent, just like I did here, I went 2 spaces to the right. So now I have 100% is less than 133%. Yep, that one's also true. Looking down here, we know our thirds are 33.3% repeated. So I'm going to write that. And I'm going to see that it is not less than 13.9%. So there is my answer. Now I can go double check this and see that 4 goes into 25 times. And I know that I move my decimal 2 places to the right, and I'll be at 500% is greater than 400%. So I know that is absolutely correct. Moving on to question number 3. Which of the following is equivalent to 1.5%? Well, I'm starting out with a percent, so I'm either going to decimal or to fraction. 1.5% to decimal, I move the decimal 2 spaces to the left. And now I have 0.015 or 15 thousandths. I see that right there. So there we go. Now to put this percent as a fraction, I know that 1.5% is out of 100. So if I look at this, I want to see if this is worth 1,000. So if I need to add a decimal place here, I know that my answer is absolutely those two. Moving on to question number 4. Arrange these by dragging them in the correct position. So remember, I told you guys decimal was always the easiest way to go. So if I look at 30.5%, and I need to move percent to decimal, I move that 2 spaces to the left. I now have 0 and 305 thousandths. 2 and 3/8. So I have, 2 and then 3/8. I know I'm adding 0.015 each time. So if I add 0.125, I end up with 2 and 375. Excuse that right there. And then I have 2 and 100th. So my first place is going to be here, my second, and my third. Question number 5, which of the following sets of numbers is in ascending order? Remember, we talked about ascending means we're going up the stairs. So we're going to start with our smallest 1. So if I look here, I have 1 and 1/3, which I know is 1 and 33. And then I have 130%, and I can change that 1 and 30%, or 130%, and I move that 2 decimal places to the left. I now have 1.3, and then I have 0.33. So now I look and I see, okay, I'm going smallest to largest. So I'm going to look for 33 hundredths first, then 130%, and then 1 and 33 hundredths. There's my answer. Question number 6. Which of the following is in order from greatest to least? Oh goodness, here we go. So if we look at 41.5%, 2/5, 1 and 405 thousandths, and 2 into 14. Well, we know this is a whole number of 7. And then 7 is going to have the decimal place here. Then I have 1 and 405ths. 2/5 we know is 40%, or we move that decimal 2 places. And then we have 41.5. So going from greatest to least, I know that I am starting with 14 over 2, because that's my biggest number. Now, did I really need to go any further? No, but here we are. All right, moving on to question number 7. Which of the number has the least value? Well, we can go and we can make all of these decimal, all of these percents. Let's do decimal. So 6.5%, I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the left, and I end up with 65 hundredths. 23 thousandths. So I'm going to write that. Let's put our 0 here. 0.023. 2/9 we remember is a repeating decimal, and we know that we just repeat that top number. And then 0.04. So my one with my least value is 2/9. All right, select the decimal percent to 4/5. This is a benchmark. Remember, every fifth is worth 20. So if I do 20 times 4, I get 80. So I'm going to look, well, where's that 80 at? 80 is out of 100, which means I have 80%. And then if I want to go from percent to decimal, I move that 2 spaces to the left, and now I have 0 and 80. And there we are. Let's see if we can get question number 9 up. There we go. All right, arrange the numbers in ascending order by placing each number to its correct location on the number line. We have 92 hundredths. Remember we said we wanted to see what score we wanted on our test. We definitely don't want 33%. We know that half is 50%. And if we really wanted to change this 92, it would be 92%. So point A is going to be my lowest at 33. Point B is in the middle, so we know that is 1/2 or 50%. And then point C is where that is really close to that 1, or if we really want to look at it a different way, we say 100. And we know that we have this 0 and 92 hundredths. All right, you guys have seen this one before. Select the correct symbol to place between the pictures to make a comparison. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 9, because I have 2 more left. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 6, 7, 8, 9. 7/9 is greater than 6/9. All right, which of the following represents the correct fraction, decimal, and percent of the region below? So if we look here, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a total of 5, and we have 3/5. Look at there, 3/5. So we can pretty much look at the rest of these, but we know that if we want to get to 100, just to double check ourselves, 5 goes into 100 20 times. Whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. 3 times 20 is 60 100s. Uh-oh, now we have a dilemma. Well, 60 100s equals 60%. And then if we want to change that to a decimal, it is 60 hundredths. So let's look up here. Where do we see that that's the correct one? We see 60 100ths, 6/10. Now remember, we can get rid of that 0. It's just a placeholder. And 60%. All right, question number 12. What is the decimal represented by the shaded area of the model? All right, let's look at our shades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 8. Now, here's the problem with this. We need to find the decimal. So let's go ahead and simplify this. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 3/4 out of $1 equals 75 cents. Question number 13. What is the percentage represented by the shaded area of the model? We have 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 holes, and then 3 out of 4, which we know from the last question meant 75%. So there we go. Question number 14. Which of the following is equivalent to 3/10? Remember I said see it, say it, write it? 3/10. There's my decimal. Now, do I see that anywhere? Nope. So now let's look. If we want to go from decimal to percent, we move it 2 places. 1, 2. Now we have 30%. Do we see that? Yes, we do. Question number 15. Which of the following does not show an equivalent relationship? All right, so let's just take a look at these. 1 1/5, which would be 1 20 hundredths. That's not the same. 1 and, wait a minute, time out. That would just be 20 and then 0.1 or 1.2. 1.9 and 109%. If I move that decimal 2 places to the right to make a percent, I now have 190%, but these don't match. So there is our equivalent. All right, question 16. Select the decimal percent equivalent to 2 1/4. Remember, 4 equals quarters, so we need the decimal percent. So 2 holes, 1/4 equals 25 cents. And then if I go from decimal to percent, I move that 2 spaces to the right. 1, 2, and I get 225%. So let's look up here. There's my $2.25, and there's my percentage. Question 16, select the correct symbol to place between the pictures to compare. All right, so we have 1, 2 shaded over 3 hole, and then we have 1, 2, 3 shaded over 5. So we need to find out what number do both of these go in. Let's just multiply them by each other. 3 times 5 equals 15. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So now I have 10 out of 15. Now I need to get to 15, and that's 5 times 3 equals 15. 3 times 3 equals 9. So 10 is obviously greater than 9. Question 17, what is equal to that? 1, 2, 2 shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I simplify, that equals 1/4. So I'm going to look down here and I see 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 25 out of 100. Divide both by 4. Because I know there's 4 quarters in a dollar. And I know 1 quarter equals 25. So now I have 1/4. So there's our answer. All right. Select the percent and decimal equivalent to 7/9. Remember we said that the 9s were repeating and it's always repeating that top number? There's our decimal. And if I move that decimal over 2 places, I get 77%. So 77 hundredths and 77%. Or 7/10 and 77